Welcome back, True Seeker. It is March 1st, 2024. The big story this morning is the Alexei Navalny funeral in Russia. And one of the top bullet points in that story is that as he was buried in the ground, they played Frank Sinatra's My Way, a song that'll turn 55 years old later this month, March 2024, reminding us that this war with Russia and Ukraine began on the 55th day of the year, the anniversary of the Gregorian calendar going into effect. And keep in mind, Navalny died just days after everyone was focused on Tucker Carlson interviewing Vladimir Putin. And a lot of people who watched that interview got the impression that maybe Putin wasn't such a bad guy. Seemed like a down-to-earth person. Started his interview with a long history lesson of the region. And, almost everyone I've seen who've talked about the interview overlooked where Putin began. He said this all goes back into history, and it goes back into the history of the involvement of the church in the territory that is now Russia, Ukraine, used to be the Soviet Union. Everyone's just skipping over where he began. It's amazing. It's like everyone's just like, it's like the Catholic Church is this thing that everybody knows about and just turns a blind eye to. They're like, yeah, we know they rape kids all over the world. Who cares? Yeah, we're on their calendar. So what? We're speaking their language. We already knew that. They gave us the Bible as we know that. We already knew that. It's like everyone's just like overlooking how important the Catholic Church is in everything. There's a reason in this nation here in the U.S. that the nation's capital looks like Rome. But again, just follow the order, right? Putin gets this attention because of the Tucker Carlson interview. People are thinking he's not that bad of a guy. Next thing you know, Navalny, his opposition, is dead, and the speculation is that Putin had him killed in prison through poisoning, which Putin's been accused of many times before. Putin was already accused of poisoning Navalny. And Now today, the funeral, 14 days later, and they have to tell you that, they played Frank Sinatra's song My Way as his body went in the ground. And of course, Frank Sinatra's Catholic, and as are many people, but Frank Sinatra's one of the more well-known Catholics in the world. And I just want you to see literally how perfect all of this is, how ritualistic it all is. And once again, we're going to talk about what we always talk about, gematria, the Kabbalistic practice of coding numbers into words, because when you learn this little simple practice, you see through the ritual. So, let's get the presentation up here. Let's hide my wrinkles by shrinking me, and let's get into it. Okay. Thousands gathered for Navalny's Moscow funeral amid fears of arrest. And then you can see in the subheadline it says, mourners knocked down barriers in efforts to follow the funeral procession to the cemetery where Frank Sinatra's song My Way was played during burial. And you can see the parentheses around My Way, and as we've talked about for a decade, when the media puts parentheses around words, there's a coded message in there through gematria. Notice how Russia and My Way nearly perfectly equate, right? Back in 2013, when we first started, we only knew the first two ciphers up there, the green one and the blue one, where it's 87 and 24, the alphabetic order and the alphabetic order with numerology. And I learned about those ciphers from Manly P. Hall's The Secret Teachings of All Ages, a book published in 1926. But the other half of the code is just running the alphabetic order in reverse and doing the same thing, running it in reverse numerology. And you can see that in reverse, My Way is 48, and in reverse with numerology, Russia is also 48. Today's date numerology is 48, as we'll get to. You can see that My Way is also 21. Today's exactly 21 weeks into Putin's age. We are in the year 2024, and again, just like how Putin began his interview with Tucker Carlson with the history of the Catholic Church, today just happens to be 75 days after the Pope's 87th birthday. And remember, when the war began, we were talking about how coordinated it was with the Pope. And then, of course, we had a more recent war begin in Israel on Putin's birthday On his 71st birthday, 71 days from the Pope's birthday, when Catholic is 71. In that case, it was 71 days before the Pope's birthday. So let's go through this in deeper detail. Let's look at the connection to Frank Sinatra. There's a deeper connection to Frank Sinatra here, possibly even to what happened to Frank Sinatra's mother. So we're going to go back and look at Frank Sinatra, his passing, the song My Way, its release, and we'll again remind about the history of the Catholic Church and the Jesuits and how the Jesuit order was preserved by the former leader of Russia, Catherine the Great, who became the leader after her husband died from arsenic poisoning, seemingly in a Jesuit ritual. And again, we'll really put it all together one more time. So today's date numerology, 3 plus 1 plus 20 plus 24 is 48. Again, fits in there with Russia, fits in there with My Way. Notice how Vladimir Putin, the accused killer here of Alexei Navalny by the media, Vladimir Putin, and here's the other thing I'll mind you, and we'll talk more about this in a second too. Is Alexei Navalny even dead? I think it's a fair question to ask. If you haven't seen the documentary Navalny, done a couple years ago by CNN and HBO run by Jesuits, CNN, not any different. I know it's Ted Turner's network, but Ted Turner's really just a puppet. If you haven't seen the documentary Navalny, it begins, and it almost seems like he really doesn't like it unless he's just acting, but they keep asking him what'll happen when he dies. And he's like, I don't want to answer that question. Why has we got to start the film this way? What happens when I die? Like, I'm not planning on dying. So, and again, we talked about this a week or so back, how perfectly synced that movie is with his death. And we'll come back to that point. But anyhow, notice how Vladimir Putin and Frank Sinatra are both 84. Frank Sinatra's full name is Francis Albert Sinatra, which is also 84. And of course, 84 is a special number. Jesuit equals 84. The Jesuit order's 84. Masonry's 84. Modern Freemasonry's a Jesuit creation. The first founder of the Jesuits, Ignatius of Loyola, died 84 days from his birthday. The first Jesuit Pope, Pope Francis, was born on 84 date numerology. Of course, United States of America is 84, which is a Jesuit creation, essentially. You look into the real history of this nation, you can see the Jesuits and Masons were here all along. But anyhow, this is not an arbitrary number, right? So how interesting the overlap on these very famous men. And just the name Frank alone's 31. What's today? It's March 1st. Shout out to Big Al. It's Big Al's birthday today. Happy birthday, Big Al. It's also my my best friend before I knew this knowledge. It's his birthday today too. He hasn't talked to me since I found this stuff out. But anyway, Frank, March 1st, they got to play his song. And again, the song My Way, very well-known song, released March 21st, 1969. So again, it's going to turn 55 later this month. In 20 days, it'll turn 55. And you can see that the recording began in 68, the year of years. If you don't know about 1968, welcome to the channel. We talk about it all the time. All the big things that went down in 1968, from coronavirus being coined, to fentanyl being approved by the FDA, to 911 being made the emergency dialing code, to World Trade Center construction beginning, and on and on and on and on. The year of years. But yeah, it's going to turn 55 later this year. Again, the war began on the 55th day of the year. All of these narratives are extensions of the war. And that means it's 54 years old and change right now. We know all about 54 and the Jesuits. And with regards to Frank Sinatra, notice what day he died. He died on the 50th birthday of Israel. Isn't that interesting? Israel established May 14th, 48. We know who runs the recording industry. The name Frank equates to 50 with the most simple cipher, like America. Frank Sinatra, American icon. Again, music played worldwide, like today at Navalny's funeral in Moscow. And, you know, what are the odds that he dies on the 50th birthday of Israel, which was a Jesuit creation? And let's not forget that just like America equals 50, so does Jesuits, the plural. So does Washington, the Jesuit stronghold. But Frank died on the 50th anniversary of Israel. And where do those Ashkenazis come from anyway? Oh, that's right. They come from Russia, Ukraine area. That's exactly where their homeland is. So isn't it interesting that his songs played in light of the day he died? Okay, moving on. Today is 74 days before his death anniversary. And where was Navalny buried today? He was buried in Moscow. And Moscow is pronounced the same as Moscow. And remember the Moscow, Idaho killings of last year? They were announced on King Charles's 74th birthday. The monarch of Russian ancestry is King Charles. On his 74th birthday, you got the Kings Road killings in Moscow, Idaho announced. And on that same day, you also had the Virginia Cavaliers football player killings announced. And again, Cavaliers are those who fought for King Charles in the English Civil War. And of course, that had a lot to do with religion as well in the church. And they just put out the new show on FX, Shogun, about the Civil War in Japan. And right at the beginning of the show, you got the Jesuits, who've been in Japan and China for longer than the U.S. has existed. And of course, Lincoln blamed the American Civil War on the Jesuits. And is a war between Russia and Ukraine not unlike a civil war, seeing as how not that long ago they were the Soviet Union and they were all one large country? And again, you just got the Jesuit fingerprints, the Catholic Church, over all of this, just like where Putin began his speech or his interview with Tucker Carlson. And again, just a million pieces of analysis. I mean, almost everybody, what they focused on is when Tucker Carlson and asked Putin who blew up the pipeline, and Carlson said, well, you did. And then he's like, well, I didn't. He's like, well, yeah, you tried to work for the CIA. The CIA did it. And let's not forget that Putin is KGB, which is the CIA equivalent in Russia. And they might as well be one and the same network, because at the end of the day, they're both run by the Jesuits. That's why the CIA was established in a major Jesuit ritual, as we've talked about a gazillion times, September 18th, 47. But anyway, 74 days from Sinatra's birthday, probably the number that we've talked about more than any number. It's the number that showed me there was something to Gematria when I first started looking into this. If you guys don't know the long 74 list, this isn't it, but this is a short 74 list. Again, there's a reason 3 of the first 5 U.S. presidents died on 7/4. There's a reason this nation's birthday is 74, because both holiday and Independence Day are 74. But as you can see, words like killing, Masonic, energy, occult, they're all 74. English, Gematria, London, the King, a million more things. Again, just like how the Kings Road killings and the Cavaliers killings were on Charles' 74th birthday. Then you had that woman disappear in the river shortly after that, and a big 74 ritual, and on and on and on. This number's all over the place when it's connected to death. Just like how the 74th day of this Catholic calendar that we're on is to remember the killing of Caesar by stabbing, which is another 74 word. Last year they put out the Federal Reserve put out the memo on the Ides of March that they were going to begin certifying the FedNow digital currency system in the first week of April. And then Bob Lee gets stabbed to death on April 4th. The guy who pretty much created digital currency, CashApp and Square. And he gets stabbed to death on 4/4 when Caesar was stabbed in 44 BC. Again, all over the world, these kind of rituals. On Netanyahu's 74th birthday last year, the Jewish woman stabbed to death. Still being treated as a mystery. But prominent Jewish woman in Detroit, if you forgot. She's friends with the governor there. The Jewish governor, Gretchen, what's her name? Witch on a broomstrom. Anyway, 74. Talk about it all the time. Keep in mind, today's the 61st day of the year, and we're talking about how the Society of Jesus runs these nations. That's the Jesuits who serve the Catholic Church. Jesus is 74 forward, 61 in reverse, just like cross, 74, 61. So 74 ritual on the 61st day of the year. Other words that equal 61. Church. Again, Putin's whole thing began with the history of the church. Church, Christian, Christmas. 61 comes from sacred geometry. The shape that represents God equates to 61. So you can see why they would code this into the language when gematria means geometry and language. Okay, and then notice, the Pope's 87, right? Pope's 87. Today's 75 days after his birthday. In case we need a little refresher, let's take it back up to the top. Russia equals 87 and 75. My Way equals 87. They had to play My Way at the big Russian funeral today in Moscow. And again, 87 and 75. Syncs with Russia, syncs with the founder of the Jesuits, Ignatius of Loyola. And while the Pope is 87, the Black Pope, who's Arturo Sosa, the leader of the Jesuits, is 75. And again, we said to watch for this number pairing, why these guys are this age in light of their founder's name, Gematria. And these numbers just keep coming together, and it's going to go on all year. I just guarantee it. They'll do this all year. You'll just keep watching. They'll just keep doing it. Catholic Church is 75. The Catholic Church, you put a "the" in front of it, it's 87. It's also 84, like where we began with Putin and Frank Sinatra, and again, what we said about Ignatius of Loyola dying 84 days from his birthday, and Pope Francis being born on 84 date numerology. So 75, 87, Arturo Sosa, born in 48 like Israel. And then with regards to Putin, today's his 147th day of his age. That's a number that has a lot to do with the presidency over here. Because again, U.S. president's 147, president of the United States is 147, 147 windows on the White House. I haven't done enough research into the Russian presidency to know if there's some 147 connections with the Russian president. But again, today's got the 48 date numerology. Russia's 48, My Way's 48, Freemasons 147 and 48. And again, in D.C., where we have the 147 windows on the White House, the city's named after the Freemason George Washington. It's known as the Masonic City. He became president the same year the first Jesuit university was established in D.C., Georgetown. Again, Georgetown equals 57, like George equals 57, like he was 57 years old, like Rome's 57. But again, modern Freemasonry is a Jesuit creation. So these are secret societies that all lead back to Rome. And again, I have to say the same things because I always get the same comments. Somebody will leave a comment. Freemasonry is not allowed by the Catholic Church. Yeah, I know. That's the public information, but then just look at the pictures of your Pope before he was the Pope doing his Masonic hand-in-hand pose. And again, think about secrecy. Here, this is the information for the public. This is the information for the cabal. So you can see at the end of the day, there's really not a big separation with Freemasonry and the Catholic Church. In fact, there's no separation. And another thing created by the Jesuits, it wasn't just modern Freemasonry, they created the Illuminati. Adam Weishaupt created the Illuminati May 1st, 1776, by the numbers. And notice Illuminati's got that 48 and 69. My Way came out in 69, the song that they had to let you know they played today. Also, in light of CNN and HBO partnering to make the documentary Navalny a couple years before his death, where it begins with them pestering him about what will happen when he dies, a question he doesn't want to answer because he's not planning on dying, but they keep insisting, what would happen? Notice how the word news is 61 and 47. Again, he died at age 47 on the 47th day of the year, and then his wife said she's going to take up his place. And understand, 47, other words corresponding with 47. Authority, government, president, Caesar. In this country, Republican, Democrat, White House. The Catholic Church, Vatican equals 47. Remember, Vatican equals 25 and 47, like how we had the Super Bowl on the Vatican's birthday, and what was the score? 25 to 22. Winning score 25, 47 total points. But, yeah, dies in a 47 ritual, and then the burial on the 61st day of the year. And it's a big news story, and it's right after the newsman, Tucker Carlson, goes over there and makes headlines, makes big news for interviewing Putin. the news, your regularly scheduled programming, the mind control. I mean, I don't know how anyone could have watched Putin's interview and, you know, really had a big problem with it, other than maybe like a really patriotic American being like, oh, that's bullshit that he accuses the CIA of blowing up the pipeline. I mean, he just gave a long historical account of what's led up to the conflict, did what any leader would do, point the finger at other nations. And again, doesn't mean you have to accept it all, but it's just information. And again, I remember, I used to have a professor who had the most perfect name for colleges, and he changed his name. He even told us that he changed his last name. He was trying to be cool, but he changed his last name to Beers. By the way, I went to Arizona State University. Yes, the party school. Professor Beers. And it wasn't long after 9/11. It was probably the next semester. I might have been a sophomore. I forget. It was early in my college years that I had Professor Beers. But, he was lecturing and he was saying how lucky we were to be Americans because we live in a nation where we're not ruled over by propaganda. And then he made the point that if we lived in Russia, they'd be lying to us about everything, including the weather. Which I didn't understand how funny that was, too, until, more recently in the years of doing this research. We've been lied to about the weather, too. But it was a big lecture hall, and I just had to raise my hand that day, and then I had to get into 9/11 and all the obvious lies, and, the whole weapons of mass destruction thing hadn't even happened yet. But he kicked me out of class. Like, he shut me down, and then he told me I need to get out of his class. And I just thought, see, this is what America really is. I mean, you just have to pretend like we're some great holier-than-thou thing where it's all based in truth and honesty, and then if you're against it, you're a horrible person. I was like, see, you can just see through. I mean, in that day, I just understood all. I was like, see what a joke this is? Okay, yeah, I'll leave class today. I got other things to do. Your lecture sucks anyway. But again, you guys, it's also how I've learned. I've been speaking out for a long time. I've been speaking out since I was a teenager in the classroom. But, yeah, we're no different than Russia. We're no different than any of these nations. They all lie to their people. We're all indoctrinated with propaganda. And honestly, if that's how Putin always talks, like I haven't seen a lot of long interviews with Putin, but I mean, I preferred he doesn't talk in sound bites. He talks to you like you have a listening skills and an attention span. We don't get that over here. Over here we get Barack Obama saying 5 slick words and then on to the next story. Here's how CNN started their article today. They should have started with how they it's interesting that their documentary they put out a couple years ago, they were pestering him about what'll happen when he dies. Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny was laid to rest at a Moscow cemetery Friday, exactly 2 weeks after his death was announced by Russian prison service. Relatives were gathered around the coffin at the Borisovsky Cemetery. We should look at that. Boris, very common Russian name, Borisovsky. Lyoha Bai, Russian word. Sleep well, dear, someone shouted from the crowd that had converged on the cemetery. Oh, it's a nickname for Navalny. Okay, I see. Let's look at these things. I actually didn't decode these things. I couldn't get past the Frank Sinatra and the connection with the Pope. Okay, let's check out a few more things here. And if you guys missed when I was talking about just how coded and just how Jesuit it was when Putin and Tucker Carlson did the interview, I mean, go back and look at that. It's just, you see the fingerprints all along the way. Hold on, we got to go back. They're updating, so they're adding more posts. 26 years of absolute happiness. Putin equals 26. And if you're new here, my first book, Letters and Numbers, begins with what's so special about the number 26, why English is a 26-letter alphabet, but Putin equates to 26. So I'm thinking, All right, hold on. All right, here's the one we were on. Let's take a look at the name of this cemetery real quick. Oh, what do you know? What do you know? The name of the cemetery is 87. Go figure, right? Just where we began. In case we need a reminder. Russia and My Way 87. Oh, it even corresponds with the name of the cemetery. Okay. Well, the Pope's 87. What about just the word itself? Just the name. Look at that, too. Just the name of the cemetery, right? Just the name without the word cemetery is 47, like his age of death, 61, like his burial on the 61st day of the year. The other things, the 155 and 15, we just talked about where the 74 fits in. 115 is a pair with 74 in so many words, like Masonic is 74 and 115, just like killing is, like Lucifer is. And then the 155, you know, the plural Freemasons is 155 and 115 as well. So, again, you guys, I mean, have you ever like really seen me do a real-time decode, and if not figured out in 1 second, like it normally doesn't take more than a minute. It's like everything they're doing is just coded. Everything. And again, that's the point. We're like, once by the time I go, well, God, if they're doing this, like, how's this even possible? You had to think about it. It's like, okay, wait a minute. Trace history. Okay, it's all synced up with the calendar. Okay, the calendar is the Catholic churches. Where's English credited to? Oh, the oldest script goes back to a Catholic monk, Burford at the Ramsey Abbey. Okay. Oh, in the 16th century, English standardized with 26 letters at like the exact same moment the calendar came out. You just start to see, okay, there was something done here. There was a system put in place. Here, let's take a look at his nickname. Oh, well, what do you know? What do you know about his nickname? 61. He's being buried on the 61st day of the year. They're playing Frank Sinatra 74 days from his birthday. What was the 20? I said something about 20 earlier. What was it? Oh, yeah, this song. Or this burial. It's 20 days before the anniversary of the song. The song will turn 55 in 20 days. That's what I was saying. And his nickname, that 20 and 25, does correspond with death, just like how at the beginning of that Navalny documentary. If you got the HBO app, or CNN, I'm sure you can look it up. Just look up the Navalny CNN HBO documentary. And they said there's a big long line on the bridge. Let's look at the bridge too. See if we can go 3 for 3. Let's go for the hat trick. Well, the 181 and the 198 stand out because what did I just say? The 198 and the 81 stand out because the Illuminati's got those things. And again, that's Jesuit, but I don't know. To me, that wasn't the hat trick. The other two are a lot more solid connections. So, the name of that bridge, interesting. The name of the bridge alone is also 153 like the Illuminati and 63 like the Illuminati. That is interesting. But maybe it is a hat trick because we did talk about the whole 48 and Illuminati and Israel and 48 and the Superior General and Sinatra dying on the 50th birthday of Israel. The 144, 153 is like Jesuit order. 144, 153, both biblical numbers. 54, again, the Frank Sinatra song is 54 years old and almost 55. Here, I'm gonna show you about this Navalny documentary and his death real quick. Okay. It released in the U.S. on April 11th, 2022, right? So check this out. He died February 16th, the 47th day of the year. Again, it's 2 weeks later. So it was a total span of 677 days, right? From the release of the film to his death. And 677 is the 123rd prime number. And what we refer to 123 as is the conspiracy number, because you'll see this a lot in Suspicious Things. But conspiracy is 123. And then we also talked about him being buried today on Putin's 147th day of his age. Again, it just seems weird if you watch it. I mean, watch it. You only have to watch the opening part. They're like pestering him about what's going to happen when he dies. And he doesn't want to answer the question. He's like, and again, HBO's behind it as well. And HBO, like we always talk about all the Jesuit rituals with HBO. HBO founded by Jesuits. Home box office equals Jesuit order. HBO equals Society of Jesus. That movie before it released had a premiere at Sundance on 25/1, like 251, the 54th prime. Remember the ritual they did with Kobe on January 25th, the day before his death? If you don't remember, I'll go back and tell you. But home box office has that 54 and 72, like Jesuit order, 54-72. Kobe Bean Bryant, his full name, has that 54. He died the Sunday before Super Bowl 54, the Joe Montana Bowl, the good Catholic Joe who went to Notre Dame. But the day before Kobe died, LeBron passed Kobe Bryant in points scored in Kobe's hometown, Philly, scoring the 54th points of the game. And if you go to my Gematria Effect Sports channel, you can watch the video I put out before LeBron passed Kobe. And it's actually a really interesting video to watch because I talked about why he was getting passed on 25/1, the 54. And then I also just reminded about how for these rituals, these big sports rituals, people die. I wasn't anticipating that Kobe was going to die the next day. But it made sense. He fell to fourth in scoring, and then he died 4 years after Moses Malone, who died for him. Again, Moses Malone has his staff turned to a snake in the Bible. Kobe was the black mamba, like the black snakes on the Philly court. And if you watch LeBron score those 54th points, he dribbles right over the black snake and lays in the ball. And then Kobe's supposedly dead the next day, again at Kobe Bryant, as we mostly know him, is 41, while traveling from Catholic Mass, dead on the Pope's 41st day of his age. But again, in that video, I'm talking about how Moses Malone and Daryl Dawkins both died by the numbers for Kobe's last season. They're both basketball stars connected to Philly like Kobe. But yeah, what are the odds that LeBron, the Lakers got one game a year in Philly, just happens to be the game where he passes Kobe in points scored, and then Kobe just happens to die the next day, and then LeBron just happens to win the finals that year. King James, they call him, that's another 41, but LeBron won the finals that year on Father-Daughter Day, exactly 41 weeks after his birthday. And the only reason the NBA was even going at that time is because of COVID. Remember, COVID moved Jackie Robinson Day, and then Chadwick Boseman dies on the makeshift Jackie Robinson Day before the Dodgers win the World Series by the numbers, which we called in spring training. Then LeBron, gets it done that year as predicted, why he was going to win the Lakers their 17th championship in his 17th season, win NBA 17. But yeah, again, and all these things over the years are all synced with the church, the Pope, and we've been pointing this out the whole time. I mean, I've been talking about, I figured out in 2016 that the Jesuits control the world of sports, and seemingly especially college basketball. That's the way it seemed to me, so obvious back then. Now I'd say it's just really the whole world of sports. But it was really obvious to me because I started to look at the NBA. I was like, God, like everybody went to a Catholic high school or a Jesuit high school in this damn league once you pay attention. Almost every coach. It's crazy. So, anyway. I'll add in the updates here. The additional numbers that just seal up exactly what we're pointing out. So, all right, let's see. How do we do compared to Tim Pool? Well, Tim Pool probably would have racked in about $50,000 by right now. That's okay. That's what happens when you sell out and you become part of the cabal. Preach nothing but bullshit. But thank you again, Leslie. Leslie's just sending us those Canadian dollars left and right. Leslie, I appreciate it. And you've definitely met your quota by a long shot. Got a donation from Leslie almost every time I look up these days. So thank you again, Leslie. But make sure you got that rainy day fund taken care of too. I appreciate all your generosity. Truth does not exist. I told you not to donate anymore. You're only 18. You need to be saving your money. I want to drown in Temple. Oh, by the way, hold on. I got to look something up real quick. You got somebody on Wednesday night said we need to ask God, what's his name? Billy Carson, if he'd be interested in covering Gematria. And, John Mendoza, who's always so generous around here, he got the idea to go on and do a super chat. Now, the one thing I got to say about Billy Carson is he's on the grind like yours truly. I see he puts out a ton of content, so he is working hard. So I don't want to jump to any conclusions about this guy, but he does call his channel Forbidden Knowledge, and I think we found out that Gematria yesterday through. I got to show you guys what happened. I got to show you how fast he takes the super chat off the screen, asking about Gematria, then says nothing about it. I was just like, man, he calls his channel Forbidden Knowledge, and then I think the Forbidden Knowledge word actually went on the screen, and he had to take it down right away. Where does it happen at? It's like you got to really be paying attention because it's like a split second that it happens. Hold on. I took a screenshot. Hold on. I'm gonna show you guys this. Hold up. Whoa. Shout out to who just did that? Somebody just sent a big PayPal. Shout out to if I say Richard, there's so many Richards in the community. It was Richard B. Thank you, Richard B. I appreciate it. I am going to start that podcast very soon. I do plan to do the test run later today. I think I'm going to start doing the show in the morning. You've noticed the last few days I've been getting up earlier because I'm trying to get in the routine of putting out content early because I think it's going to be a morning show. The Wake the Fuck Up radio show. But what better time than in the morning for Wake the Fuck Up radio? But hold on. You got to see this because it's funny. It's funny. Where's my screenshot so I can remember where it was? It's too hard to find it because he only lets the word Gematria be on the screen for like a quarter of a second. I was like, uh-oh, here's the real Forbidden Knowledge. The one that nobody will talk about that has a platform. I have to remember how to use my phone. Oh, yeah, that's how you get the photos you already took. Okay. All right, it's right at 23:06 in this video. Hold on. They gave me a copyright warning yesterday for playing the clip of Bush talking about the New World Order. It's like, since when can't you show footage of Congress? All right, so this is Billy Carson with the Forbidden Knowledge, and apparently he's a multimillionaire from speaking truth in the truth community. He's got the eye on his mic, huh? Watch. So shout out to John Mendoza. This is going to happen really fast. Pay attention to the screen. Pay attention to the screen because it's going to happen fast. Watch how fast John's super chat goes up about Gematria and watch how fast it goes down on Forbidden Knowledge. Shout out to John Mendoza. Yeah, thanks. He's like, whoops, that's got to go down. Here, let's do it. Let's do it in quarter speed. It's even fast in quarter speed. Oh man, we can't get anybody to share this knowledge, man. It's just, and in here they're like, why are we talking about stuff from thousands of years ago? Because it's so relevant to today. And I don't disagree. The history repeats itself. But you know what's more relevant than anything right now? Learning about Gematria, because it allows you to see through literally everything every day. The rig market, the rig news, the rig sports, literally everything. Watch this in a quarter speed. Even in a quarter speed, it's going to be fast. I don't know. The look on that guy's face, too. Is he under MK Ultra? What's wrong with his face, man? I appreciate the offer, John. I think John got our question answered. So, anyway. We'll leave it there for now, you guys. I'll be back later today. We will do the test of this new platform. There's a free trial, and if it works, with that last donation, we've raised almost enough for the full price. And like I said, I'd cover the difference anyway. So, yeah, we'll do a test. I'm not exactly sure what time I'm going to do it today because it's going to be kind of busy. And I have a meeting that's supposed to go from about 12 to 2. So, I might be able to sneak it in before then, but it also might have to be after. And we're just going to make sure the platform runs. And again, for all the musicians in the community, if you got an idea for a little intro for Wake the Fuck Up Radio, it can be your song that's the intro. So either that, or I'm going to need somebody to like chop up and modify Bone Thugs Wake Up, It's the First of the Month. The first of the month part only works on the first of the month, but maybe we can have a special intro for the first of the month. But the wake up part could work. And then the one caller also brought up the corn song with the wake up. So, anyway, the musicians, you guys want to work on a little intro, get some more publicity for yourself. If I got to pay a bill for it, let me know. Let me know what the cost is for the intro song. We'll work something out. So, all right, we'll leave it there, Truth Seeker. And I'll be back later at some point. Till next time.